So Radhika's next. Her question that she put in the chat is, I have been feeling really out of touch with my Reiki practice. I just can't bring myself to do self-healing or even use Reiki on the fly, and it breaks my heart to slowly see myself drift away from it. How do I go about tackling this? Earlier, I was absolutely regular with my self-healing. I just don't look forward to it anymore and can bring myself to sit down or can't bring myself to sit down for 30 to 40 minutes in silence and let Reiki help and heal me.
Well, I have been there, just so you know. And I wrote an article called Reiki Heals Spiritual Resistance because I was in a really, and when I say resistance, I don't think I knew it at the time that I would call it that. Like, I don't know that I felt like I will not do that, except I did. I definitely have had times where it's like, I'm not doing it. And what I've discovered with it is we go through cycles with this work, and each of the cycles is another training experience that life gives us, and how we respond to it gives us. Radhika, what I know with you is, and observe, is that you are showing up anyway. One of the things I learned during, I'm recalling a very specific period that describes exactly what you're saying. And I recall what that felt like. And now I know, of course, in retrospect, what Reiki was teaching me and training me about that. And the first step that I learned was I showed up anyway. And that's what I see you doing. That's why you're asking the question. That's showing up. And I think that was one of the starts, because also at that time was back when Reiki Your Way wasn't necessarily part of what I understood about how Reiki worked. The original training I had before I studied with William Rand was very strict. And it actually wasn't a match for me, because it didn't intuitively make sense for me that some of the rules I had to follow. So it actually added to my resistance, because I didn't want to do it the way it was being told to me I'm supposed to do it. And so it actually felt like one more job, one more thing I had to do, one more requirement. So in retrospect, I can see that some of the guidance I was receiving during that is to understand that each of us is unique, and each of us has a unique circumstance each day where we are inviting this energy. And what Reiki has shown me is that that's what it does, is works with each of us our way and how we need it that day. And that's different for everyone. And for some people, they love those very traditional practices and disciplines of doing things the exact same way each time. Sitting perfectly, being still perfectly, making sure they do every hand position for exactly the same amount of time for a length of time. Well, I've been in a cycle in life where I could do that. And then I've been in cycles of life where if I had to do that, I just didn't do it because I couldn't do it for a multitude of reasons. Some of the reasons were just plain resistance. Like, I don't want to have to do it like that. And so in the article, what I wrote, and I can recall back to it. I'd have to go back and read it because this particular article, it's called Reiki Heals Spiritual Resistance, and it's on our website, reikilifestyle.com. And if you go to the Reiki library, you'll see the articles, and it's in it. They're all a free download. And it was published in Reiki News Magazine. I'm thinking it had to be 2008, maybe something like that.
I posted it in the chat.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
So anyway, what Reiki taught me through that is that the resistance is also part of our free will. Because some of the experiences and spiritual growth or personal growth we go through with these particular cycles of life, once we go through them, there's no going back. Like, you reach certain levels of awareness, and there's a little bit of a like, do I want to do that? Because this is the planet of free will, and we all get to decide, how far do I want to go? And what I discovered in the resistance is it was giving me the time to answer that question. Do I want to keep showing up? Do I even believe this? And I always believe skepticism is healthy. Like, some people say, well, I'm skeptical. And I think, good.
It means you're thinking.
It means you're discerning.
Yeah.
And these practices, and I mean, let's face it, we say and see and experience some very outside of the box experiences, and that we even talk about here. Like, I'm sure that people could listen and go, oh man.
Kind way to say it. The weirdometer.
Yeah, that weirdometer. I'm very aware, I'm aware of that part. So in retrospect, what I discovered is that it was actually, that time period was a time for me to give myself time to also see, because there's a level of focus that this takes too. Is that where I want to focus my attention right now? Is that what is important right now? Is that my priority right now? And that's where Reiki on the Fly came in. Because through that period, I found that part of it was that I really moved into a different cycle in my life where I didn't have the 30 to 40 minutes to spend doing exactly my hand positions in a particular way. I was caregiving my mother. That was the priority. I was in a cycle where I had friends that were sick and dying animals. We moved from our farm. I mean, it was a dramatic life change. And that's where Reiki showed me, just call it in. And I see that you said it's hard to do the Reiki on the fly. It's okay. A lot of times I'd just be like, all right, I'm going to say it. I don't want to say it. I'm going to say it.
Reiki on.
And yeah,
it's happening, right? It's happening, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm enlightened now.
Sometimes I'd say, okay, yes.
Fine.
And that was it. And then a little bit later, I could say the name of a symbol. Like,
I'd like to add a little bit to this,
yeah,
Colleen. I'm hearing, I had a session with a client not too long ago that had the same issue. And one of the things, obviously, we all know is sometimes getting those sessions outside of ourselves can be helpful from that outside observation.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, an outside observation can help kind of just release that. But I'm hearing to mention that what it showed for this person, she was having almost the exact same problem, and we know the cycles, and it is helpful to know that, even like Colleen still goes through those times. But that she just needed to kind of shift where she was at in the way that she was doing it right now. And what it meant for her was making it more creative. So she would, it showed like that she would be doing Reiki with cooking. The Reiki crafts article kind of popped into my head. You know, or maybe in hiking, or connecting with it in nature with her animals, and that it was, she just needed rather than actually the sitting down meditating portion of her practice, it wasn't even just on the fly, it was just expressing it in different ways for herself to feel that connection in a different way. And she needed to, part of what the healing was also is that she needed to kind of connect in with her creativity. That might be different for you, but that you can use it in different vehicles and different ways that can also connect you to that. You know, connecting in with nature through Reiki when you're on a hike or something is connecting in with Reiki, and that can be so healing in so many different ways. Having a craft project, or coloring, or, you know, if you're not very creative, or yoga or exercise, you know, so bringing it in the different expressions in your life can start to connect you back in with it. And it's not necessarily the sitting still in the meditation style of Reiki.